Hello hikers and world travellers, welcome back to The Trail Hunter. I'm Russell Hepton and in today's video I'm going to be doing my first ever Q&A video. I've just reached 500 subscribers, so I thought it'd be a very good thing to do. I've got lots of questions from you guys, my esteemed Trail Hunter community. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the Q&A. For those of you who are new to my channel, I believe that the best way to explore the world is on foot. I'm offering you hiking video guides, gear reviews, gear lists, travel tips, hiking tips, and much more. So if you're new here, do consider hitting that subscribe button below. Okay, so the first question is from Owen Weinman, and he says, have you ever felt weird walking around a city knowing that any potential thief can see all of the contents in the mesh pockets? So he's referring to my HMG 2400 Windrider, which I took traveling with me. Have you noticed any durability issues with the mesh, and is there any reason you went with the Windrider over the Southwest? So have I ever felt weird about walking around cities with the Windrider? Most of the time when I had this backpack, I wouldn't keep any valuables in there. It'd probably just be like an old pair of socks or some snacks or something like that. So if anyone wanted to pickpocket me, it really wouldn't be much of an issue at all. What I really love about the mesh pockets is that I can see exactly what I'm grabbing for when I go into them, so it's really handy for that. But yeah, no, I haven't really worried about that. All of my valuables were always inside the pack. It'd be rolled down at the top, so no issues there with security. In terms of durability with the mesh, I've had lots of snags on it, but there's absolutely no rips, there's no fraying of any of the fibers on the mesh. I'm actually very pleased and very surprised at just how strong that mesh is, so really good HMG for the mesh. And the main reason why I went for the Windrider over the Southwest, the main difference is the mesh pocket versus the closed Dyneema pockets. And like I just said, I really like to see what I'm grabbing in my pack. Also, there is drainage in the bottoms of the pockets on the Southwest, but I just thought if there's mesh and you're putting things in, taking things out, it's going to be a lot easier to keep clean with the mesh, because any bits of crumbs or dirt or anything can just wash out or fall out when it's dry. Whereas with the Southwest, I can imagine it gets quite grubby in the bottoms of those pockets. So yeah, that's probably the main reason why I went for the Windrider over the Southwest. So I hope that answers your questions, Owen. So the next question is from Josh Sanders, and he's referring to my Everest Base Camp trek with this question. Thanks for the gear list video. Actually, the whole time watching the series, I was wondering what your guide was carrying. You may not be able to show what he was carrying, but maybe if you could do a video talking about what he used, it would be much appreciated. So I would love to do an entire video about what my guide was carrying, but literally he was carrying next to nothing. His backpack was I think it was a 40 litre Juta backpack, and inside all he kept was a bottle of water, his hat, a map, a compass, and a couple of snacks. That was literally it. All the clothes he was wearing, he would just take off if he got too hot while he was trekking. He wore the same clothes the entire trek. I'm not sure if he changed his underwear, but yeah, he literally had the same pair of socks, same underwear, same clothes. He just carried on trekking, just carried some water. When we were getting up to higher elevations towards base camp, he actually took a couple of things off me. I think he took my dry bag with my electronics and maybe carried my bottle of water just to save me a little bit of weight. But apart from that, there was literally nothing in his backpack. I mean, obviously he's used to doing this trek. I think he'd actually been to base camp about 6 times in the last 2 years. He was used to living up at altitude. So yeah, he was quite used to it, very strong. Didn't need much gear. It just goes to show that if a guide can hike the Everest Base Camp trek with next to nothing, it's pretty much certain that we don't need to carry much ourselves. We might need a few more creature comforts than they do, but you really do not need too much stuff when you're trekking up to Everest Base Camp between the months of September and November. Okay, so the next question is from P Green X, and they're referring to my HMG 2400 Windrider. Why didn't the tent fit in the 2400? I'm on the fence between the 2400 and the 3400 and have a very similar setup. So when I was hiking the South Downs Way, I would always keep my tent on the top of the backpack, strapped around with the top strap, simply because when I get to camp, the first thing I want to take out of my bag is my tent, so I can get that set up. And then once that's set up, I can get in the tent and then unpack everything else to get my sleeping bag out. It just made everything else a lot more easy to keep to hand. If it rained, the tent's waterproof, the stuff sack that it's in was waterproof, so I didn't worry about it getting wet. And also it saved a little bit of extra space in my backpack. It's just how I like to hike and how I like to pack my bag. But of course the tent did fit in there, even with the other stuff in there. So the next question is from D. Cordwell, and he is referring to my Everest Base Camp trek again. Just wondering what the deal is with trekking permits these days. Do you have to hire a guide to get a permit, or can you still trek independently? I was in Nepal 15 years ago, and I gather lots has changed. So when I arrived in Nepal, I literally had no plan. I didn't know whether I was going to do the Annapurna circuit or Everest Base Camp. Luckily for me, I went on Airbnb and I booked this hotel. It turned out that the hotel manager actually owned a trekking company which was just opposite, over the street from the hotel, and I was able to book everything through the hotel. The hotel managed the guide, the flights, the accommodation, most of the accommodation I should say, my Tim's card, my permits, and when we were on the trek, the guide actually handled all of the checkpoints and permits there as well. So take my advice, when you get there, find a trekking company that's going to handle everything. The thing with permits is I didn't actually have my own physical permits on me, it was just all handled by the trekking company. In terms of your other question, whether or not you need a guide, you can definitely go independently if you like. I'm actually going to be doing a video very soon about the benefits of having a guide on the Everest Base Camp trek or going solo. I can imagine they're two very different experiences. I personally prefer to hike alone, but I went with a guide because of the altitude and things like that I had never been through. So for me, having a guide was a very good experience. But no, you can absolutely go it alone. Just take your map and compass, pack your bag, and off you go. I saw plenty of people doing that, so I hope that answers your question there. Okay, so the next question is from Michael Ingledew. Best advice video for the South Downs Way. Thank you very much, Michael. So he's referring to my top 10 tips video for the South Downs Way here. I plan to do the South Downs Way next year as part of my scheduled midlife crisis. Then I plan to do the coast to coast. Most interesting for me was your suggestion on lightweight footwear. I've been training wearing boots and my feet are in tatters after 15 to 20 miles. Understandable. I'm going to try all of your suggestions. I already learned the hard way about travelling light. My first training hike I packed everything, second hike next to nothing. I do have a question, how do you get over the fear of wild camping? Thanks again and subscribe to your videos. Okay, as for lightweight footwear, I say this in a lot of my videos, I do not wear boots anymore for the exact same reason as you, Michael, because your feet are in absolute tatters. I always say, just think of your objective. What type of hike are you going to be doing? Is it going to be snow? Is it going to be ice? Is it going to be muddy? Is it going to be dry or flat? Are you going to be bouldering? Then choose the right footwear for you. I tend to stick to trainers or trail runners because most of the trekking I do is in either dry weather, flat terrain, there's no snow, so you don't really need boots. With trail runners or trekking shoes, they're much lighter, so when you're swinging your feet, you're not using as much energy, your legs will tire out less, and you'll be able to hike much faster and much further. As for your actual question in that comment, how do you get over the fear of wild camping? Now, the South Downs Way wasn't the first time that I'd wild camped, but it was the first time that I'd hiked and then camped and then hiked and then camped. Now, I don't think the fear is around wild camping. I think mainly the fear for me was picking a spot that was too conspicuous so that someone could easily come along and make you move to another spot. Now, on the South Downs Way, when the sun was setting at around 9 o'clock, that would give me about an hour left of daylight to find my next suitable spot to wild camp. And what I'd do is I'd camp in the corners of fields or in a wooded area, somewhere that was not too close to the trail, somewhere that was quite private. And I had absolutely no problems whatsoever. In the event that someone does come along and make you move, then just say, sorry, I thought this was a safe place to camp. Pack up your bags. If you're traveling light, it's not gonna be an issue, and go and find somewhere else to camp. That's the worst that's ever gonna happen. For me, wild camping is the best way to go. You get your privacy and your solitude, and you can pick where you camp. I like to set up my tent in a way that when the sun rises in the morning, I get to see the sunrise over the horizon. It was just a fantastic, beautiful trail to walk on. I find if you decide to actually go with campsites, you limit yourself to the times that you can get to places. I prefer to just save the ticket for the campsite for someone else and then go and wild camp, and I have a much more enjoyable experience. Okay, the next comment is from Toxoplasma Ngondi. Very nice. How do you get your drone to Indonesia? Easy to get permission? So my drone is a DJI Mavic Air, so it's about that big when it's folded. It fits in a case not much bigger than the actual drone itself. So it's very small, very lightweight. Actually getting it into the country was absolutely not a problem, and in most areas in Indonesia the locals actually quite like that you're using the drone. They're very interested by it. I'd just be very careful about where you use it and who is gathered around you, but I always use my drone in places like public events where they want you to film it and they love seeing the pictures. There's lots of people and security around, so the likelihood of you getting your drone stolen is very slim. Or I'd take it out in a place in the wilderness where there's not many people there and just be a bit more discreet about it. I obviously wouldn't use your drone in residential areas at times of the day where people are either trying to get some privacy. Just use your head and don't do anything silly with it. Be respectful to the locals. If there's a lot of people around, at least ask someone if you're allowed to film there. Most times at public events you'll probably see a drone there or two anyway, so when we were watching one of the Balinese dances there was actually another drone flying around. I just had to watch out for that one. We didn't want to crash into them, but just be safe. Use your head, don't do anything stupid with your drones, and you'll be absolutely fine in Indonesia. So the next question is from Darren Linden, and he's referring to my video about Kelingking Beach in Indonesia, and he says, mate, what a beautiful place. The sand is amazing, crystal clear, so green. Also, that tune is wicked. Maybe you could let me know where you pick up your music from. So I use a mixture of two online libraries for music, which I pay for. The first one is Artlist. That costs me $200 a year, and I'm allowed to download all of the tracks that I want in that year and keep using them forever. You can download as many tracks as you want and it's absolutely fine. You can use them for whatever project. There's no limits to what you can actually produce with that music. So you can put them in a YouTube video, you can put them in a music video, a promotional video, something for your client if you're a graphic designer or a filmmaker. It's very, very flexible with that license. The second one that I use is another one called Epidemic Sound, and it's a bit cheaper and you can pay monthly. It's about £10 a month and you're allowed to download unlimited music. The only thing is that it's for a YouTube license only. So when you sign up to Epidemic Sound, you have to link it to your YouTube channel. Once your license runs out, I actually found that they started putting copyright strikes on the videos that were including songs from Epidemic Sound, so I had to re-put my license in and then contact them and get them to remove that copyright strike. A good thing about Epidemic Sound is that it comes with a sound effects library, so you can get anything from drums to glass smashing and gunshots, anything that takes your fancy with the sound effects. Also, another cool thing with Epidemic Sound is that you can actually take out the stems of the different tracks, so you can have the lead guitar track, the bass guitar, the drums on their own and separate them. So I found that feature was really good, something that Artlist doesn't include. So there's a benefit of having Artlist and Epidemic Sound. Whichever one you choose, they're both brilliant services for quite a reasonable price, but I decided to go for both. I'll leave the link in the description below so you can go check those out and you can put the music in your own videos. If you'd like me to do a full review of Epidemic Sound and Artlist, then just let me know in the comment section and I'll put one of those together, because there's a lot more about those two services that I like and dislike that I'd probably like to go on to explain. So if you want me to, leave it in the comments section. Okay, so the next question is from Alex Hill, and he's referring to my gear review for my OEX Fox 1 tent. And he says, hey Russ, great vids, quick question. Noticed you use a different tent from the one you reviewed previously in your video for the OEX Fox 1. Would you recommend it? What model is it? Price, etc. Going to the South Downs soon for a few days. Need to invest in a cheapish one-man tent. So, the tent I first reviewed was my OEX Fox 1, fantastic little tent. There should be a link here to the video so you can check out that review. But after that, before I went on my South Downs Way walk for 100 miles, I decided to get something that was a lot lighter, waterproof and a little bit bigger. So I went for the Z-Pax Solplex. They don't actually sell the Z-Pax Solplex anymore. I don't know why. I think it's because they brought out a new tent that has features of the Solplex and the Duplex rolled into one. But I haven't done a full review of that tent yet. There will be one coming up soon when the weather outside clears up a bit. I'll be able to set it up properly. I took it with me all the way down the South Downs Way and it was a fantastic little tent. Very strong, very durable, waterproof. I did find that there was some condensation issues with it, but the design of the tent allows the condensation to run out the outside of the tent and outside of the bug mesh. It definitely was not a very cheap tent to buy. I got it imported all the way over from the US because Z-Pax is a US based company, but I literally can't find a tent like it in the UK at all. So for me it was worth it spending the extra cash getting it over here. The actual price of the tent was about $650, something like that, but it was definitely worth it. It sets up with two trekking poles, one at the front, one at the back. I've actually got it in my bag. As you can see, this is literally it, and it's made out of this material called Dyneema. It's the exact same material that my backpack's made out of. It's ultra light, ultra strong, brilliant little tent. I did love the OEX Fox one. It was my first one-man tent, and it's perfect for anyone looking to start through hiking on a budget that likes solo hiking. So yeah, definitely can't fault the OEX Fox one, but my Z-Pack Solplex is definitely much better for me. So the next question is from Tim Iredale, and he's referring to my South Downs Way walk. Another awesome episode of the walk. I am once again at the gym doing another leg day. Did you do anything special for foot care? Cheers, Tim. So all I did for the South Downs Way 100-mile walk was wear lightweight, breathable footwear. I can't stress to you how important it is to wear shoes that fit the purpose. The South Downs Way is incredibly flat. You're not really bouldering. If you go in the summer, there's not going to be any snow or ice. And you're going to want something that's going to dry super quick if it does rain. So if you go into a hostel or a campsite and there's a fire or a place to dry off your shoes, or even the next day in the midday sun, you'd be able to dry off your footwear super quick. The shoes that I wore for the South Downs Way walk were New Balance Zanti V3s. They were really comfortable, had a really nice sole and a good cushion on the heel. And I was very comfortable. For about the first 60 or 70 miles, I had absolutely no blisters. I started getting a few little hot spots and blisters starting to appear towards the end of the hike, but to be able to walk that far doing 30 miles a day in just some little trainers and with no foot problems was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, I didn't really do much for foot care, just wore the correct footwear. Okay, so the next and final question is from Colin, and he's referring to my Everest Base Camp trek. Food tips, not in terms of safe to eat, although that too. Colin, I actually did a video not long ago about how to avoid food poisoning on the Everest Base Camp trek, so there should be a card somewhere up here. So do click on that and you'll be able to find that out. But he asked, what did I find palatable? So on the Everest Base Camp trek, what I found really good to eat was the vegetable momos, a noodle soup and vegetable fried rice. What I did was I went completely vegetarian for the trek. The vegetarian food there was absolutely fine. I did find pancakes were a little bit iffy. They didn't taste right. I don't think they'd used the right ingredients or they hadn't cooked it enough. But for me, the vegetable momos were definitely my favourite. Most of the time I was either eating really good vegetarian food at the tea houses or snacking on high calorie stuff during the day. Okay, once again, this is the end of the video. If you liked it and found it beneficial, then do hit that thumbs up. If you have any more questions for my next Q&A video, which I'll try to do at least once a month or once every couple of months, then do leave them below in the comment section. I'll get back to you and put them in my next Q&A episode. Lastly, I will be uploading videos just like this one about 3 or 4 times a week. So do consider subscribing for those videos. I hope you enjoy them. Okay folks, once again, thank you very much for watching this Q&A, and I'll see you guys in the next one.